Time to look at a few things at the forwarder. The air compressor belt, the air compressor is seized, but the coupling for it where it connects is not. This winter, last winter, it burnt the belt when it seized up. Uh, had I known, I could have just disconnected the electric part for it and the coupling would never engage, but I did not do that. I ended up cutting the belt, but it was burnt anyway, so it was probably bad. I was hoping to be able to replace it this summer, but that did not happen. So, but I'm still installing a new belt and just disconnecting the electric part so the coupling for it never engages. So, and before you say something smart like, oh, just loop the belt around the fan. No, it's not possible. The belt is too small. The belts for the generators you can replace by just looping them around the fan. They are big enough, but the one for the air compressor, for the climate control, the AC, is too small. I have tried. So I removed that connection where for the fan where you have the high and low speed at the beginning. Maybe could have gotten around with just loosening it, but it would have been in the way threading in the new belt here once the fan blades were removed, because it's plenty tight getting the new belt in there through the hole in the fan. So even if there are two bolts that are hard to access, I think it's worth removing that connection for the high and low speed for the fan. So installing is just the reversal of taking it apart, getting the bolts for the fan and that electric connection, and then I tighten up the compressor so the belt is tight, but this time I made sure to remove that electric connection so it will never engage. Even if the computer brain handling the climate control tells it to engage, it will never do that. So hopefully I will get around to fixing the air conditioning in both the machines next summer, because it needs to be warm enough outside when they fill new gas in them. So because I'm gonna buy that service, it's nothing I'm gonna mess around with doing myself. I've had a little bit of an issue where I get a false high hydraulic oil temperature in the machine, the forwarder, and I think it's something electrical. I did replace the sensor a while back. That did not really change. I thought it was better for a while because it comes every now and then, and you know it's a false reading because it jumps from normal temperature up to alarm too hot instantly. But you still get a little worried if you know you haven't really paid attention to the gauge for a while, and then all of a sudden you get the alarm that it's too hot, and you kind of want to go out and feel the oil tank and ensure that it's one of these false alarms. So I had my dad inside with the ignition on to have that the electrical system was on, and then I wiggled all the wiring and hoped I would find a place where it is. It comes and goes. Sometimes it could be a couple of days. Some days it jumps up a few times. So I will leave that as is for now. There are some other places in the electrical systems where they had placed new wiring, just cut away old sections. At some point I might have to look at replacing the entire electrical system. Did check the oil levels. The gearbox is a tiny bit low, and I think I have a small leak from the shaft going forward, because there are two shafts going out. One goes to the back of the machine and one goes to the front of the machine. So, but it's very minor. I needed to fill like 1 liter of oil, but I need to keep track of that so the leak doesn't increase and I run it low. That will be an expensive problem. Another annoying thing is that the dipstick for it is stupidly hard to access. It's just stupid. I would love to extend the dipstick so it would be easy access, maybe even with the cab lowered, both for the gearbox and the front differential, but We'll see. Maybe I will have time for that in the future to make it easier. For now, I will have to put the cab up and be annoyed. Hydraulic tank and cab was lowered. Should not have done that. More to come. I
Jag tror
even locked the
likadana
cab.
gummi duttar på den här hytten som de vill bygga.
Check the level on the central
Ja,
lubing. Might need to fill a little grease before taking it out. Did some cleanup on the lower part of the crane. It kind of pushes out a little excess grease in areas, but I rather have a little excess grease than too little grease. And my dad was cleaning up the rear end. And then I found this hose for the central lubrication system. It's broken. Luckily in the position where it was noticed. Did some cleanup on the roof. Also checked because I've had some annoying little rattling in the cab on this one. And these wings that hold the lights have gotten my attention. This one kind of the left one is kind of solid and the right one, the other one is kind of floppy, so I will need to look at that. It comes later in the video. Rear differential was checked, the oil level was good in that one. Front differential was good also. Had some issues getting the cover plate back in place, had some debris getting jammed under there. But not too much trouble, even if it's a heavy duty piece and the bolts, the threads for the bolts are kind of gone, but putting the bolts there hopefully holds it in place. So back up with the cab and the hydraulic tank for that central lubrication hose. And there is this little tab you fold out to hook onto the cab to lift the hydraulic oil tank. Yeah, and then ensuring that the extra wiring we have for that extra circuit breaker does not get snagged on anything. And then this will be boring video for the next few minutes sorting this out because it's hard to get good video there. Yes, there is kind of a strap here. I think they've kind of held the hydraulic hoses here so they wouldn't rub against the frame. We'll look at something for that also later in the video. Removing some clamps holding the central lubrication hoses, and then they had been very serious when doing some repair or upgrade here. I don't think this is original stuff. Machine is too old for that, but maybe they did some serious overhaul on the central lubrication at some point. Sorry. But once I started removing some clamps and so on, I could start bringing it further out to remove all this protective winding. And here I ran into some serious issues because the hose that I need to replace is held in place with some clamps here, and it was I would say hell to getting them undone. One was very easy because they had placed a smaller bolt through the hole with a nut on the outside, so that was easy. The other one, oh what a hell, it was really hard getting in. It had an Allen key bolt that I think was kind of damaged. It was really hard getting it to get deep enough. I was able to break it loose at least. I fiddled with it for a long. I think I spent half an hour getting this one bolt out. Once it was loose enough, it was possible to start kind of with a plier, kind of grabbing it, twisting it a little, but it took a really long time. A lot of the twists didn't really want to move because it jammed. I had to bring the tool back out. Installed a temporary hose with a grease fitting so I can pump in some extra grease in this joint, since I know it has missed some grease it should have had. I also repurposed this extra hose I have to kind of extend the one I was replacing to help pull it through and route it the same way as the old one, because I don't think it was really damaged by anything to talk about. Some little twig might have been in there, kind of pulled on it a little, but there was no real visible damage where it had kind of burst the old hose. And here was also tight and annoying. It would probably have been smarter to just unbolt the central lubrication unit, but I ended up trying to remove it. It was just one hose up, but the first hose, the adapter fitted into the block, came undone. Luckily that was enough of a hose so I could start twisting it enough to undo it and remove that adapter. Normally that should stay in the block, and the next one luckily came out. Well, that one wouldn't have mattered if the adapter had come out because I had already loosened the other end. It would have been easy to twist that, but luckily I had enough new hose to repurpose and redo it. I used screw-on connectors. I think I've showed you that before, so I'm not adding that here. I just cut it to length and tighten on the new connectors. Yeah, long magnets are good when you drop stuff all the time. And missed a little with fitting the hoses back on the block, but really not a whole lot to be seen because it's hard to get good video when there is tight limited access. Wrapped everything up from the block end and tightened all the clamps down, everything, and then I could start filling this one. This time I reworked it to two bolts with nuts on the other side for both the clamps. Bolted it in place under the drive shaft, and then I could fit the clamps to ensure it's held in place and not damaged. And trying again to lower the hydraulic tank. I did lube a few points that do not have central lubrication. Then I went up on the roof to look at that floppy wing, the light where all the lights are mounted. And it was kind of damaged. I looked at first at just placing a plastic spacer in here to kind of take up some of the play and have it be more solid on there, but found that there are some other issues, and maybe they've had issues here in the past because they've used some of these self-drilling screws that have broken up here, two of them actually, and I hoped I would be able to kind of undo them with pliers and remove them because they are kind of in the way now that I want to take up some of the play here, and I don't want all of it just riding on a little piece of a broken screw, so could not get that down, so undid some electric connectors and two bolts here, and you can just lift off this entire assembly. And with better access I could start grabbing the screws enough that they would start kind of twisting and moving and undoing themselves, and a little gentle tapping, actually quite severe tapping at the end to get them out and out of the way. And with them out of the way I brought it back up, hooked it onto the roof, and then I installed some of these plastic spacers to take up some of the play, and let's see if that changes things. Also found that they had made the recess for feeding out the cable a little on the small side. It was actually clamping quite hard on the cable. I guess it's the same issue on the other side, but I'm not gonna bother with that now. Reinstall the lid, so time will tell if this solved the annoying sound I've been having. Also checked all the plugs on all the bogies. I didn't check all the plugs on the differentials and the gearbox this time around. There is probably a tiny bit of condensation, so it's a tiny bit of water in there, but I won't bother this time around. I will probably be in for a big service next summer, depending on how many hours I'm able to put on the machines this winter. I will probably keep using the machines, maybe change the engine oil when the time comes, but do a bigger flush. I think it's might be up for changing some of the other oils also. I will probably change gearbox and differentials at least and some of the bogey oils. Time will tell. More will come. Take care.